Hey there, fellow weirdos, and welcome to my descent into madness. Welcome to my channel. Today we're diving headfirst into the dusty, often terrifying, and always bizarre annals of history. Strap in, grab your thinking caps, or tinfoil hats, I don't judge, because we're about to explore some historical happenings that'll leave you saying, wait, they actually happened? From unexplained plagues to avian armies, we're covering it all. Let's get weird. All right, picture this. 16th century France, the sun is shining, birds are singing, and people are dancing. Not just a little jig, mind you, but a full-blown, non-stop frenzy of motion. This, my friends, is the story of the dancing plague of 1518. And trust me, it's a lot less Riverdance and a lot more what in the world is going on. It all started with a woman named Frau Troffea, who, out of nowhere, decided to bust a move in the streets of Strasbourg. Nothing too crazy, right? Wrong. This wasn't your average Tuesday night salsa class. Frau Troffea danced for days, her body seemingly taken over by an invisible force. Now, you'd think people would be concerned, maybe call a doctor or, I don't know, an exorcist. But nope. Instead of caution, this bizarre behavior was met with encouragement. People thought it was catchy. A new dance craze, maybe? So, naturally, they joined in. Within a week, over 400 people had caught the dancing bug, transforming the streets into a chaotic rave fueled by something far more sinister than good vibes. The thing is, this wasn't a joyous celebration of life. It was a terrifying epidemic. People weren't choosing to dance, they were compelled to. Imagine being physically incapable of stopping your body from moving. Even as exhaustion sets in, your muscles ache and your mind screams for a break. That was the reality for these poor souls. They danced until their bodies gave out, suffering heart attacks, strokes, and utter exhaustion. The authorities, bless their confused little hearts, thought the best course of action was to, you guessed it, encourage more dancing. They figured if these folks were going to dance themselves to death, they might as well do it in style. They even built stages and hired musicians. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. The dancing plague raged on for months, leaving a trail of bewildered historians and one big fat question mark in the history books. Was it mass hysteria, a bizarre form of ergot poisoning, or something even stranger? We may never know for sure, but one thing's for certain. This wasn't your grandma's jazzercise class. All right, folks, let's venture to the land of sunshine, shrimp on the Barbie, and giant, flightless birds waging war against the government. You heard me right. This is the story of the Great Emu War of 1932. And yes, it's every bit as ridiculous as it sounds. Picture this. Australia, 1932. The Great Depression is in full swing, and as if things weren't tough enough, a new threat emerges. Emus. 20,000 strong, these feathered fiends were running amok, destroying crops and generally being a nuisance to the already struggling farmers. Now, emus are tough customers. They're big, they're fast, and they have a nasty kick that could probably take down a kangaroo, let alone a human. The farmers, at their wits' end, appealed to the government for help. And the government, in their infinite wisdom, said, say no more, we'll send in the big guns. And by big guns, I mean actual, literal machine guns. You see, leading the charge in this bizarre battle was Major G.P.W. Meredith, a decorated World War I veteran who probably thought he'd seen it all, until he came face to face with an army of angry emus. Armed with Lewis guns, the soldiers set out to cull the emu population and restore order to the outback. What followed was, well, less of a war and more of a comedic tragedy. The emus, you see, were surprisingly adept at guerrilla warfare. They scattered at the first sign of gunfire, making them incredibly difficult targets. Plus, their feathers acted like bulletproof vests, rendering the soldiers' weapons practically useless. Newspaper headlines from the time read like something out of a Monty Python sketch. Emus defy machine guns. Feathered foe outwits soldiers. It was a PR nightmare for the Australian government, and a resounding victory for the emus. In the end, the Great Emu War was a humiliating defeat for the Australian military. The emus, victorious and probably quite smug, continued their reign of terror over the outback. It's a story that proves that sometimes truth is stranger and infinitely more hilarious than fiction. Let's be honest, politics can be messy business. But in Prague, they took that messiness to a whole new level, twice. That's right, folks, we're talking about the defenestrations of Prague. Not one, but two historical events, where people decided the best way to settle a disagreement was to chuck their opponents out of a window. Our story begins in 1419, in the midst of religious and political turmoil. The Holy Roman Empire was a hotbed of tension, with Catholics and Protestants vying for power. In Prague, a group of Hussites, followers of the reformer Jan Hus, were none too pleased with the Catholic leadership. They demanded religious freedom and, well, things escalated rather quickly. A group of angry Hussites stormed Prague Castle, seized 4 Catholic officials and, you guessed it, tossed them out the window. Now you might be thinking, that's a bit extreme, isn't it? And you'd be right, except for one small detail. The officials survived. Legend has it that they landed in a pile of manure, which, while unpleasant, probably saved their lives. Was it divine intervention or just incredibly good luck? I'll let you be the judge. But here's the kicker. The defenestration of 1419 wasn't even a one-time thing. Fast forward to 1618, and Prague found itself once again embroiled in religious conflict. This time, it was Catholic hardliners who were feeling the heat from Protestant reformers. Tensions reached a boiling point, and once again, the windows of Prague Castle became escape routes, or rather, launching pads. 2 Catholic officials and their unfortunate secretary were thrown from the window, plummeting a dizzying distance. And unlike their predecessors, these guys weren't as lucky. They didn't land in a convenient pile of manure this time. The defenestrations of Prague, while undeniably brutal, highlight a fascinating, albeit terrifying aspect of human history: our tendency to resort to extreme measures when the going gets tough. Let's be real, history can be a bit of a downer sometimes. Plagues, wars, defenestrations, ... it, quote, S enough to make anyone reach for a stiff drink. Speaking of drinks, did you know that Cleopatra, the last active ruler of ancient Egypt, was rumored to have consumed the most expensive cocktail in history? That's right, forget your fancy martinis and vintage wines. This queen knew how to party, like it was 30 BC. Cleopatra, known for her beauty, intelligence, and, let's be honest, her flair for the dramatic, was said to have made a bet with her lover, Roman general Mark Antony. The wager? She could consume the most expensive meal in history. Antony, probably underestimating the ingenuity of a woman who could conquer hearts and empires, readily agreed. Cleopatra, ever the strategist, had a plan. She ordered a cup of vinegar, a rather ordinary beverage, even for royalty. But here's where things get interesting. Cleopatra was no stranger to luxury, and she had in her possession a pearl earring of immense size and value, considered one of the most precious in the world. With a mischievous glint in her eye and a flair for the dramatic, she dropped the pearl into the vinegar. The acid in the vinegar slowly dissolved the pearl, creating a rather unconventional and undeniably expensive cocktail. Historians still debate whether Cleopatra actually swallowed the concoction or simply allowed the pearl to dissolve, proving her point. Either way, it's a story that speaks to Cleopatra's cunning, her extravagance, and her ability to make history, one extravagant sip at a time. Cheers to that! We're wrapping up our bizarre history tour with a trip to the heart of Yellowstone National Park, home to geysers, bison, and a legal loophole that could make even the most hardened lawyer raise an eyebrow. Welcome to the Zone of Death, a 50-square-mile patch of wilderness where, hypothetically, you could get away with murder. I know what you're thinking. Hold on, did she just say what I think she said? And the answer, my friends, is yes. Yes, I did. You see, due to a quirk in the U.S. Constitution and a slight geographical oversight, this particular section of Yellowstone falls into a jurisdictional gray area. The Sixth Amendment guarantees the right to a trial by a jury from the state and district where the crime occurred. However, the Zone of Death is located entirely within Yellowstone, which spans parts of 3 states but doesn't technically fall under the jurisdiction of any single district court. This means that any crime committed within this zone would be incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to prosecute. Imagine trying to assemble a jury of your peers when no one can agree on which court even has the authority to try the case. Now, before you pack your bags and head to Yellowstone with any nefarious plans, let me be clear. This legal loophole has never been tested, and chances are any attempt to exploit it would be met with the full force of, well, common sense and the combined legal prowess of multiple states. But still, the mere existence of the Zone of Death is a testament to the strange and sometimes downright bizarre nature of the law, especially when it intersects with the untamed wilderness. It's a reminder that even in the most well-regulated societies, there are always going to be those little pockets of mystery and intrigue just waiting to be explored. Or, in this case, maybe just admired from afar. So there you have it, folks, a glimpse into the strange, the unbelievable, and the downright bizarre side of history. From dancing plagues to emu warfare, it's clear that the past is full of surprises. And frankly, I wouldn't have it any other way. Remember, history isn't just about dates and names, it's about the stories we tell, the lessons we learn, and the occasional reminder that sometimes truth really is stranger than fiction. Now, I want to hear from you. What was your favorite bizarre history fact? Did any of these stories leave you scratching your head? Let me know in the comments below. And hey, while you're at it, why not share some of your own favorite historical oddities? Who knows? Maybe your suggestion will inspire the next episode of Historical Weirdness.